Hello, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you today from the planet of New Texas, I'll be your host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me today, as always, he has the humor of the hyena, DC area improv artist and comedian, Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, buddy?
David, how are you doing, Big
Um,
Pard?
I'm a big part. Just fine. And our special guest this week, he's blessed with the scent of a sex panther. It's Joe Gallo, everybody. Welcome to the
Hey,
show.
thanks.
Now
Good to be
I
here.
Welcome back.
welcome back. Yeah, Joe was on an earlier episode. Which the hell? You were on Exo Squad, is that correct?
Oh
Correct.
yeah, Exo Squad.
Guys, we've done so many episodes I can't even keep them straight. So many guest stars, so many tunes.
hmm
Yeah. Now I mistakenly thought that Joe brought this current tune to my attention. I don't know where I pulled this from because Joe says he was not the he was not the one that told me about this. So we'll be talking about Brave Star today, and I'm very happy that we are because holy shit. Is this a mess? So we're going to get into it with a little bit of history. I'm going to turn it over to Sean, who's going to tell you how this came about.
Like every other show that we've watched that has been in the late 80s time frame,
Yep,
one season, 65 episodes.
exactly.
I, I don't know how they managed to do this for these shows. It's brilliant. It aired originally from September '87 until February of '88. 65 episodes in that. Just think about that. That's amazing. Um, the original concept and idea for Brave Star began. If anybody ever remembered the cartoon uh, Ghostbusters. Now,
Hmm.
this isn't the real
Or
Ghostbusters.
the
This
extreme
should, or the
Ghostbusters.
extreme Ghostbusters.
Right.
All right, this is just straight up Ghostbusters by Filmation. Now, Filmation ran into, or I mean, there was some anger and some dispute between using the name Ghostbuster, but suffice it to say, Ghostbusters was terrible and was garbage. But Filmation managed to get away with this for probably 65
Yeah,
episodes
probably.
as well. Anyway, in Ghostbusters, there was a villain, a ghost that was named Tex Hex,
Right.
and they translated Tex Hex as sort of like this kind of like ghostly apparition who was also sort of like from a Western era,
Right.
and they used that guy to pivot into what is now Brave Star.
Yeah, so what a
Um,
hell of an origin story. Like a cast off ghost from Ghostbusters into this
and so,
craziness.
it's crazy, and
Yeah.
so um, they ended up uh, they ended up kind of really wanting to develop this whole idea around a science fiction western,
Hmm.
and they kind of used Tex Hex as this main character. And as it took shape, now this was the crazy thing that we learned through watching this show. So originally, Bob Forward wrote the feature film script for Brave Star: The Legend,
Yes.
which I don't know. I mean, after I wish I would have known that Brave Star: The Legend was a real thing prior to watching like the 4 or 5 episodes that I watched of just Brave Star.
Right.
Um, because I feel like Brave Star: The Legend is sort of the origin story, but it came out in like later in '88 after Brave Star the television show had run on the air, and
Which
so
makes no sense, but
um,
yeah.
it makes no sense. So here's the thing: if you watch Brave Star, if you're like, oh, I want to waste time in my life, and I want to watch a couple episodes of Brave Star, and then you're like, what is going on in this batshit crazy science fiction Western world that they created? Maybe go back and watch Brave Star: The Legend
Yeah.
because that's what I want. Here's the thing: this show was so much of a hot mess that I now want to watch
Right.
Brave Star: The Legend with the hope that it'll actually explain
Anything?
anything at all. Like I'll take even like if I had like 5 questions
Right.
and they answered one of them, I'd be like, well, that was successful.
Yeah. We'll
So,
take it. We might
I
actually
mean,
try to revisit that in a future episode just because we all did talk about it and we were just like,
please,
we need to watch this. So yeah.
this thing is so fucking crazy. And to give us a little bit about this craziness, Joe Gallo, please give us the synopsis on this mess.
So this is the story of Marshall Bravestar, who is the law dog
We'll tell
of
you why
the
Sean's laughing a little bit too.
of New Texas,
Yeah.
and his sidekick slash horse 3030.
I just want to throw in like a small asterisk that's also just lover.
Yeah, we'll talk about possible bestiality in this Brave Star bestiality. We're not entirely sure. It's never on camera, but it's hinted pretty
Ah, come
strongly.
on, fan fiction, don't let me down.
Oh, it's got to be out
So
there.
the whole show takes place
Yeah,
in the 23rd century
of
on a
course.
planet called New Texas. They're experiencing sort of a kind of a gold rush, but it's not gold. Everyone's there to get the mineral cerium.
Hmm.
And so you have this sort of ensemble cast of different alien species. Certainly humans.
Yeah, few and far between, it feels like.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
surprisingly.
weird, kind of Mos Eisley kind of weird Star Wars kind
Yes,
of
that's a very
aliens.
good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3030 is an equestroid. There are the prairie people, who is like sort of an entire race of Jar Jar Binks
Yeah,
talking
they're terrible.
God, I hate
short
every one of them.
folks. Um, and then kind of a freak of the week kind of a thing. And it seems like they're making up new species to suit the plot. But there are some repeating characters, like
Hmm.
the dingoes or coyotoids,
That's right.
who are sort of the typical bad guys episode to episode. Um, and
I think
at
the
some
weird
point
thing about
I want to
the weird
address the
thing.
issue of racism around the dingoes. You know
Oh,
that they're,
okay.
they are the coyotoids, but they have a slur. You know, they call them
Here's,
dingoes.
here's the thing:
That's
is
true, they
that
do.
watching
And they're all
watching the
Australian.
first couple episodes
Yeah.
where they introduced the coyotes, dingoes, whatever, I actually thought that they were raccoons
How did you think they were raccoons?
because they kind of have like masks over their eyes.
Is it
Oh
because
my
they
God.
steal, Sean? Is that are you saying?
Is it because they wash their
No.
food in the river before? No.
Are those? Is that something a raccoon does?
Oh my God,
Well,
yes.
they have their little robber masks.
That's
I
true.
mean, they just have little robber masks. I thought they were like adorable little raccoons.
Well, it turns out in one particular episode,
I was like,
they
"What
are
are
not
raccoons,
delightful,
Mom?"
adorable creatures. They are
No, they're not. They're
drug-dealing
terrible.
pederasts. Yeah.
Drug dealing assholes.
But as Joe mentioned,
Well, I
there's a...
I love the fact that when they tell him this dingo just goes, I've got the right to make drugs. It's like, I mean, he's like, I've got the right to a living just like everybody else. And like Brave starts to be like, whoa, hold up, you're making drugs. Like, that's illegal.
Yeah, so like Joe mentioned during his synopsis, though, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, plenty of characters in here, all kinds of craziness, but we really got to start the conversation with the title character, Brave Star. Now, Sean laughed a little bit ago because Joe called him Marshal Brave Star, which is technically,
That's his job.
that's accurate. He's the marshal.
Yes.
He's like a U.S.
That's his
marshal.
job.
Yeah, but on New Texas. So he's the marshal. His name is Brave Star. However, everywhere I've seen it, IMDb, Wikipedia, other show pages on actual, like, images of the DVDs and things like that, his name is spelled like the name Marshall, not like the title Marshall. The name has two L's, the title has one L. It's kind of a nitpick, but we were wondering if his name is actually Marshall Bravestar, making him Marshall Bravestar. That is just a little
I think
aside.
that's the only way to interpret
It's the
it.
only way to interpret it. We're digging deep here on Saturday morning cartoons. So that's Marshall Bravestar. Let's talk about this guy because in theory and in concept, it actually sounds kind of cool. I don't know how they fucked it up this bad, but it sounds
This
pretty
is a
progressive.
great, like,
Yeah,
this show is a wonderful concept and idea,
right.
and like they have a pretty lush environment
Oh,
set up for them on
definitely.
this planet of New Texas. God, this
Yeah, the
name
name
of
is
this
not a great
planet.
start. Yeah,
Like, but it's a very interesting concept. Like, it's they do a great job, as we said. Like, it seems like there are a lot of different like alien species that inhabit this planet of New Texas. And it just seems like everything's very like it seems like everything has a lot of history in this.
yeah. It feels
which
like
is
it's lived in. It feels like it has existed for a while when you first see it.
It's like you said. I'm kind of like, how did they screw this up as much as they managed to?
And here's
Like,
the thing,
it
it's
just-
like it's fairly progressive. So Marshall Bravestar, we don't really know his origins because we haven't watched that movie, which hopefully explains it. Because you're just dumped into this show like most of these. You're just dumped into it. So he's a Native American, all right? It's 23rd century. He's a
Right.
Native American, like very obviously Native American. They kind of call it out throughout the course of the show. He's got these.
Do they call it out? They call it out
They hit you over the head
nonstop
with it.
throughout this.
Yeah.
Every time he has like a question in his life, he's like, I should consult the shaman. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Why don't you just run to your shaman?
Yeah,
He'll fix it.
one of the other like
This
humans
show
on there,
should-
just the shaman. It's like his literal spiritual guide and just basically like his adopted father kind of thing. Yeah, he just solves
I
everything
mean, here's
for
the
him.
thing, like, this show, really, Brave Star was sort of the vehicle. Like, he was a means to an end. Like, the real star of this is just the shaman.
I don't know. I'd make a
Yeah, I
case
mean,
for
he-
30-30, but yeah, we'll get to him in a second too. But yeah, Brave Star, I mean, even just, okay, just the concept of him, without getting into how he actually came about, like, the concept, it's a Native American action hero that is a lawman, and he's leading your cartoon series as the title character. This is like mid-80s. That, to me, is fairly progressive. He's not a sidekick, you know, he's not Lone Ranger and Tonto, he's not, obviously he's not a villain, and he's not fighting villains that are other Native Americans, because that would be weird.
Well, I also think
Yeah.
that the overt homosexual overtones are highly progressive.
So whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. Oy. But before we get to them, you guys want to talk about his powers? Let's talk about his powers.
We should definitely.
Because he's
yeah,
not
let's
just
get into
he's
the
not just a
powers.
Let's
regular
only talk
lawman.
about the one power.
Only talk
he
about
The
his only powers that he
powers
uses.
Yeah. The only power that he actually utilizes. Yeah.
So he has these totem powers because, of course, that's the first kind of stereotype that we roll into because he's Native American, he's got total totem spiritual animal powers. So
Yep.
there's this like gargantuan totem out in the middle of the desert where the shaman kind of lives in by his campfire, and it's got a hawk, a wolf, a bear, and a puma. Sounds pretty normal, right? Native American, whatever, you're going with the totem pole, that sounds normal. Each one of those stands in for a power that Marshall Bravestar has. How does he activate them? You guys give me your best Bravestar activation and your favorite power. I want to hear it.
Joe Gallo, go
Speed
ahead.
of the puma.
That's your favorite?
Puma.
Yeah, there's
What I actually like about it is that he brings up speed of the puma
Yeah.
when he needs to do something really fast,
Yeah.
and then it's like a 5-second cutscene while he invokes the speed of the puma.
right. He's standing there for 5-10 seconds. Speed of the puma, puma, puma. It's like at that point you're dead. Whatever you
I feel
needed to
like
do, you're already dead.
Every time
Yeah.
every like power that he invokes, he could have just saved time and just asked 3030 to take care of it for him.
Yeah, which he does in an episode where he actually loses his powers, and that one's called Strength of the Bear.
Right.
The bear, the bear.
And here's the thing. I mean, here's the thing is that like
Yeah.
that episode, that instance that you're talking
Uh-huh.
about, Dave. All right, he is like strength there, and like it doesn't come to him, and then he's all like, oh,
He has the
no,
best
what is
face,
going
though. He has the
on?
best face when that happens because he's just like, bah? He's very disturbed by it. It's real good.
Oh, it's like, it's very like contorted and very like derpy. He's just like, oh no.
Yeah, the animation on some of these is really goofy, but yeah.
And 3030 like steps in to help him out and pulls out his trusty weapon, Sarah Jane.
Sarah Jane?
That you hear him. Sarah Jane? What did I say?
No, you said Sarah Jane. You're good. Yeah, it's like a blunderbuss. It's
Yeah.
like this
Oh,
massive
Sarah
gun.
Jane.
Yeah.
Well, and most people don't know
Like,
this, but
keep
this
thinking,
was
that's good enough.
actually the breakout role for Sarah Jane, who later went to star as the shotgun in Looper.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks to Ryan Johnson for bringing that back in the 21st century.
Thank you. Like it was one of those things where so 3030 has this weapon named Sarah Jane, and he says Sarah Jane like a million times. Anytime he talks, almost in every sentence that he mentions
Oh, yeah.
anything, he's like, "Oh, me and Sarah Jane will take it." Shut up! I don't care about the fact that his gun has a name. Like, it's just stop it.
Well, before we even
So-
get to 3030, though, let's go back to his powers.
Oh,
for
I
a
was gonna
second.
say.
Yeah,
I
what were
was
you
gonna
gonna
say. So he calls this power, and then he can't get
Right.
it. So
He's impotent at this
3030
point.
pulls
He's
out-
impotent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just flaccid.
Yeah. It's just a flaccid mess.
In the wind and snake.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar with this show or his powers, I just want to roll through them real quick. He's only got 4. He uses them. Sometimes he uses them constantly. Other ones he doesn't
Well,
use
you
quite
say
as much.
you say he only has 4, like it's a problem. I mean,
He's
pulling
only
on-
got 4.
He's pulling powers from animals. Like, who else is doing that? I mean, that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
That's a
Oh,
pretty
it's
cool
great. I'd
idea.
love to have, for example, Eyes of the Hawk. Because why not? He's kind of like Beastmaster, if you guys remember that movie.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's totally
Absolutely.
Beastmaster. He just borrows like the eyes of a hawk. Not physically, because that would be weird, but he can just see
Mm.
like over long distances, and he can
He
see
just,
from high above.
he just pulls a hawk
Yeah,
out
it
of the
just
sky
pulls
and
a
just
hawk out.
gouges its eyes out and puts them in places.
The show got real dark.
This is a terrible show.
But yeah, he uses it for everything as like important as like finding somebody who's lost in this like maze of canyons, or finding I don't know, a drug factory that's out in the middle of the desert, or something as mundane as being lazy and being like, where's my sidekick partner 3030? I'm bored and I'm lazy, so I'll just use Eyes of the Hawk and I'll be
I
able to find him.
I would use these powers to be lazy all the
Yeah,
time.
it's so much easier. Let animals
Oh
do the
my
work
god,
for you.
yeah.
Yeah. Ears of the Wolf. Not very often used. You'd think if you had
No.
wolf powers, maybe hearing would be the last one you'd use. I'd use like teeth of the wolf maybe, or like fur coat of the wolf. It's something.
I think
Social structure
Yeah.
of the wolf.
Alpha male dominance of the wolf. Something. Not fucking
I really
ears.
think I really think they could have like pared this down to just
Strength of the bear.
maybe
Just powers of the bear. Because
It
guess
is.
what?
In
Bears
the
can
end,
see pretty well.
He uses strength of the bear multiple times in like every episode.
It really is
and
so
I
good, though.
still have yet to ever see him use Ears of the Wolf. I didn't see those
So
episodes.
he uses Ears of the Wolf in an episode called Space Zoo, which is nuts to begin with. But my favorite line, he has to activate these powers by going, Ears of the Wolf, the wolf, the wolf. And then he activates them, like we mentioned. And then he says something like, down that way sounds like the sounds of the living, but unhappy living. It's just like, god damn, like the powers are great, your dialogue is horrendous. Horrendous. And it's unfortunate because it's pretty cool. Like the general concept, like okay, Native American lawbringer, sci-fi, like foreign, like distant planet in the far-flung future. He's got all these awesome powers of animals, and then whoa, that's as far as it went. That's as far as it went because everything just went to shit from there. What do you guys even want to talk about as far as just like where this thing went wrong? Do you want to start with 3030 because that is a whole entire mess?
yeah. Let's get into 3030
Yeah,
because
go for it.
3030 is a giant part of this show. 3030 is a cyborg horse
Yep, nailed it.
that is
No, he is an equestroid.
okay. So he is a cyborg stallion, but he is a race called an equestroid.
Yes.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
And he is capable of walking on all fours like a normal
Yeah,
horse
he can run like a
that
horse.
we are familiar with. But he also can move and change into like a bipedal form and walk around like a human, which just leads to some insane hijinks.
Oh, and talking like
There
a
is-
human and shooting like a human, and yeah.
there are just so many moments, like so many like cheeky moments where like 3030 and Bravestar kind of like look at each other and they're like, yeah, right, wink wink, nudge nudge.
Now here's the
Okay,
thing: they
cool.
call each other
You
like
get
they
it.
call each other like Pard, like Big Pard, which is a weird nickname.
partner.
Yeah, his big partner. He just calls him Big Pard.
Well, and in episode 1,
Yeah.
I mean, he talks about like I need 3030.
Oh, it gets graphic.
Yeah,
kids.
it gets pretty,
This is Bravestar After Dark. It's it's an adult situation. Because I mean, it's basically a cowboy and his horse, and they're just out on the prairie, middle
Yeah.
of nowhere.
Nobody around for miles.
Little Brokeback Mountain, New Texas style.
And if you worry they are, Eyes of the Hawk. You can scope it out.
Yeah, Eyes of the Hawk. Guess what? Nobody's around. You got Ears of the Wolf on. You're gonna hear them coming. Strength
Dog
of
of
the
a horse.
it's-
I mean, like it just
Yeah, whatever. Strength of the bear. If 3030 gets a little rough, it's all good. It's fine.
sexual prowess of a panther.
Speed
I mean,
speed of the
bring it
puma is
on.
not something you want. I mean,
No.
They're
Want
quick.
Slowness of the slug.
Slowness of the slug,
Take
time
your
of the tortoise, whatever you want. Just slow that action down a little bit. And here's my other thing. Speed of the puma. You're gonna pick a puma for all the things that are gonna be like speedy. So many things that are
Which
speedier
problems
than
with
a
the
puma.
puma?
I mean, come on, take a roadrunner, take a
They
jackrabbit.
gotta choose cool animals.
I mean, I
It's not
guess,
going to be
but speed
speed
of
of the Roadrunner.
Speed of the cheetah, even. I mean, I know
Okay,
it's
cheetah.
African and whatever.
I mean, like here's the thing: is that
Yeah, wrong
Filmation had pretty much at this point like ripped off anything that they could
Right.
have. All right, like if they ripped off Roadrunner, I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers would have been like, "Whoa, hold up, what are you doing?"
No, it's got.
now?"
Anybody use a
Like,
puma yet? Anybody use a puma? No, we got
nobody
puma.
use
All right, we
puma?
got speed of the puma. Good. Ugh,
All right.
what a mess though. But yeah, so that's 3030, and he's pretty annoying. I was pretty annoyed with 3030,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, he is a
So
big part of the show. Yeah.
this led to my thought.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, they
Yeah,
they're
they are
partners. I
partners.
get I get it,
Hmm.
and they're partners in crime and they're partners in law. But like, I feel like they're
They
partners
are.
in like a sexual
Yeah,
manner.
or at least socially. They're what do you call it when you live together? Along common law. It's like common law.
Kaya, I feel like I feel like at a minimum they're like common law married.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just a
they're
man
not
and his
like
horse, his equestroid.
there's just
Yeah.
as Joe had mentioned, there's just way too many moments in this show where like they make, especially the first episode, like they make comments about one another that are like
Yeah.
there's a weird sexual undertone. It's like Brokeback Mountain if you like got on the back of the friend that you were going to fuck and then
Rode him into
like a
battle?
horse into the man rode him into the man. Like,
It's exactly
it's
like that.
it's so bizarre.
In the show, it seems like they're constantly mentioning that someone's the best something or other
Right.
in the galaxy. You know, so like Brave Star's the best marshal in the galaxy.
Oh yeah.
His fallen mentor is the best shot in the galaxy. I think that 3030 has the most supple lips in the galaxy.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Got them equestroid lips that are longed for. The other funny thing, you know what else 3030 is? He is the last of his kind, my friends, the last of his
Yes.
kind.
Oh,
Which that is a theme that continues throughout all these ridiculous characters. Everybody seems to be
so
the last of their kind. Yeah.
I was thinking about this
Yeah.
because prior to the podcast,
Hmm.
we had two specific questions.
Right.
We were saying,
Among many others.
what
Yeah.
is what is the deal with a lot of creatures? A lot of creatures in the Brave Star universe are like the last of its kind, the last
Yep.
equestroid. All right. And
Yep.
then the other question that we had was, when did they relax the space law on interspecies relationships? And I think we answered our question. Like,
Yeah.
if you're the last of your kind,
Right. Then who cares?
Yes.
like, who cares? Like, go to town. Like,
Go to
you
town.
gotta go to town. Like, you gotta repopulate. Like, if you're the last,
Yeah, but if
maybe-
you're last of your kind, you're not repopulating anything, so you might as well just have a good time, and everybody can't really say too much, because you're last.
Yeah.
You're done.
I know.
Sorry,
I know.
buddy. No more equestroids. So, 3030. Hats off to you, brother. And here's a weird thing. So, like, there are women on this planet, too. It's not like they're just a bunch of dudes out there and mining stuff and no women around. There's, like, at least 3 women who have, like, actual names in the show. There's, like, a judge. There's a former, like, Marine.
Oh yeah, JB McBride.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's JB
No
McBride.
reformed prostitutes. They left some tropes
Yeah, unmined for children's cartoons, surprisingly.
I know.
No,
Yeah.
yeah. No just raging venereal disease in the new Texas
None.
Old West? Nope. Nothing like that, as far as we know.
I mean, like,
It would have been
this thing.
space VD.
Space
Space.
Yep, space
STD.
Well, and that's
transmitted
something,
disease.
real
yeah.
quick. I felt like I learned everything I needed to learn about the show
Uh-huh.
when I believe in episode 1.
Yeah.
There is a Franklin stove in the background.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
But
obsessed
it's
with
not
this
like a
stuff.
normal Franklin stove.
No.
It's all chromed out and stuff because it's a space Franklin
It's the
stove.
space stove,
Mm.
correct. Yeah.
So-
So they've taken like not ancient, but like colonial technology and
Right.
just moved it into space and put some doodads on it. And
Right.
yeah, it's 23rd century work of art right
Yeah.
there.
I mean, that was my biggest, like, that was I don't even know how to get into this. Like, that was the biggest problem. Like, we can terraform
Yes.
in this universe,
Far
but we
flung
are
planets.
stuck
yeah.
in shitty pioneer time. Like, there's like we've come so, it's like taking 2 steps forward and then taking like a trillion steps back.
Look, man, they've
Like,
got
it just-
hover bikes. They've got horses
Yeah,
that are
hover
fucking
copter
cyborgs
thing's
that talk.
awesome.
I mean, they've got all kinds of like vehicles and stuff, but they're still like they're all wearing like old-timey old west wear. It's kind of like Firefly when they go to like some of the old west colonies.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Like
like
everybody's
a,
struggling to
yeah,
just get water,
absolutely.
you know? It's like, "Oh, we don't have water, but we have hover bikes and cyborg horses." It's so weird. It's just so strange.
Ah,
But do you guys know another character who's the last of his kind? We haven't really talked about
oh,
any of the villains yet.
no, we should talk about some of the villains
Okay,
yet,
do you guys remember
because
Stampede? A villain
Stampede.
name is Stampede.
God.
He is probably one of the weirdest villains I've ever seen in a show. He is called a Bronchosaur, who also happens to be the last of his kind. Go figure. He is just, you kind of, I don't even know how to describe him. Like, he's
He looked
huge,
like
first
a.
of all, he's
He looked like
massive.
a. No, like if you what was it?
It almost
Oh
looks like one of
God.
those, like if you watch an old Bugs Bunny cartoon and he's out in the desert, you always see those like skeletons of the cows, like the steers, the cattle that are out in the desert.
Oh
He
yeah.
looks like one of those come to life, but with like green skin and like fiery eyes. He's also got these crazy powers that are like kind of magical, but also kind of like technological. He can just create stuff out of thin air. It's the weirdest character I've ever seen. It's so
He
strange.
kind of reminded me like if you read like Marvel
Yeah.
comics. Did you ever there's a villain that they have that's in there. It's called Fing Fang Foom.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like Fing Fang Foom,
Kind
like
of
who's like this
dragony.
like yeah, kind of like a dragon, kind of like I mean I guess that's as far as like the idea went, but I mean like
Right,
it
right.
just it kind of remind like he's just like a giant green sort of like I want to say Asian dragon,
Yeah, kind of, but
like
he's got like these steer. He's got these
Yeah.
steer horns, though. This is gonna be kind of an
Yeah.
obscure
There's
reference, but
elements though.
yeah, there definitely is. So,
A little
well,
more of that casual racism sneaking in here in
yeah,
the show.
80s casual racism. I think it's
Yeah.
because a lot of them were probably. I don't even know. This isn't fact checked at all, but like, I'm assuming if they cranked out 65 episodes in just like 3 or 4 months, probably
yeah.
some overseas animation studios. Just gonna go out on a limb, say
Mm.
probably some overseas animation studios. I don't know. I don't know if there were or not, but I'm gonna guess that there were because
I'm gonna
boring.
venture to say that because of and this isn't even remotely close to being researched either. I'm
Yeah.
gonna say because it seems like Filmation just basically took and cut corners wherever they could.
Right.
Absolutely used overseas animation. These guys are so shitty.
Well, here's the other thing. They don't even like take the time. I mean, I do like some of the names in this. I like Brave Star for whatever reason. That's fine. Brave Star works. 3030 is kind of cool. It's like the gun-related name. That's fine. Then we got things like Deputy Fuzz, which
Oh God, Deputy Fuzz.
Deputy
Deputy Fuzz
Fuzz.
is the Jar Jar Binks of this
Oh,
fucking
he's so
world.
And there's
He
awful.
not
is.
just one of him. There is an entire population of him. They're called Prairie
They
People.
Yes.
are
And they
terrible.
all talk in like this high-pitched, squeaky,
Oh,
retarded
it's
voice.
terrible.
It's just, and Charlie Adler, I love you, buddy. He's the guy that voiced Deputy Fuzz. But man, you're irritating. That voice. It's just. The worst part is
It's
that all of them
grating.
talk
Like
like that.
you,
Yeah, it's
I
like
had to.
what,
I
like
like the
Orko
point.
from He-Man, right?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
Snarf.
Like I
It's
had
that
to.
same thing. Yeah.
I had to pause at one point and like adjust the volume. I was like, am I like unable to hear what he's saying, or like,
Yeah.
am I having a problem with
I
like
was looking for
listening
captions.
comprehension? I was like,
Right.
yeah, exactly. I was looking for the CC. I was like, holy
Well,
crap!
he
Like, what
speaks.
is he?
Yeah, it's like
This
broken
is
English.
this is
It's
terrible.
childish. It's his own kind of
It's done.
made-up language. So it's
No,
just a complete
and
mess.
Charlie Adler is phenomenal.
Yeah.
He's been in Rocko's Modern Life. He's been in Real Monsters, Tiny Teen Adventures.
Nicely
He's
done.
been in
Tailspin.
everything. Tailspin, thank you. He has a
Tailspin, by the
storied
way, is like a
career.
reunion for these guys because Brave Star, 3030, and Deputy Fuzz, all characters.
Oh, really?
Oh
All the
god,
same voice actors. That's cool.
that's amazing.
Or were they actually just on the show where they cargo that Baloo was flying around,
Yeah.
flying them from New Texas?
Cargo the Baloo was just dropping off.
Just drop them to their death.
Kit was just fucking it up.
Kid.
Well, it shows you though the wide variety of voices that you can see in vocal work.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Charlie Adler is on the one hand Deputy Fuzz, and he's also Starscream in the new movies.
Yeah, so that's a
Right.
big
Yeah.
swing from one to the other. That's crazy. So like the
Yeah,
vocal
and
range
it's
is pretty cool.
interesting that
Yeah.
they're totally unrecognizable.
Oh
You,
yeah.
you wouldn't know that this
Oh
one
yeah.
person doing these 200 voices of your entire life. He's sort of anonymous because you don't see his face.
Dude, I can't imagine like the animation aside, I can't imagine doing the voice work for a 22, 23 minute long episode every day, 65 episodes. Granted, that's maybe like what, a few months worth of your life, but that's a lot of just back-to-back work. And it's no wonder the dialogue was so terrible because they rushed through everything. These guys
Now,
probably had like a
Dave,
one-shot take, and that was it. That's all they got. Yeah.
Dave, you
One thing
brought
I
up.
would say though, go ahead, Sean.
Oh no, I was gonna say no. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, we keep talking about how they cut all these corners. One place where they did not cut any corners is the theme song to the show.
Oh my God,
Oh,
we
they
didn't
did
even
not.
get there yet. How did I not get there yet? This
Yeah.
theme song. Well, Sean, did you have a tie-up thought for what we were just talking about?
Oh, no, I had a completely new thought.
Oh,
So I
okay.
would love to get into this theme
So I
song.
don't even know where to begin with this. The animation is an interesting, so just the visual look of it, it's interesting. I don't even really know how to describe it. It kind of looks like that early like Ralph Bakshi animation of that kind of like rotoscoped look, pseudo realistic but over like an animated background. I don't really know how to explain it. Um, you kind of just
I
have to
actually
see
I
it. It's
wrote
tough on
down
the show, but yeah.
like in terms of like animation style for this, I wrote this is a I made it a math equation. It
Okay.
just says heavy metal plus Hanna-Barbera plus Gem and the Holograms.
Yeah, that's
Like,
actually weirdly
yeah.
weirdly works out because it's definitely the
Yeah.
heavy metal kind of like realistic portrayals with the crazy colorful backgrounds, but then it definitely has that cartoonish quality to it too, with some of the lesser characters like Deputy Fuzz. Um, yeah, I could see that. If you guys can hold those three images in your head at one point, you know kind of what
If
Brave
those
Star
three
looks like.
images could have like really consensual, like one wild night of passionate lovemaking
Hey,
and
they're
produce a
all the
show,
last of their kind, so
they are.
yeah.
Oh my God. Ugh.
So yeah, so it's
So
a
this theme
yeah.
song is just. I mean, I had to like. I watched it like we watched a lot of these episodes
Yeah.
like on Hulu, which thankfully on Hulu they
Got 30
give
of
you
them.
the entire theme song from the beginning,
Right.
and so like any episode you watch has that theme song buffered in, and so like I watched this theme song like 4 or 5
Right.
times, and I finally had to like Google the lyrics because I was just like, what are they
You cannot. So
saying?
let's
This is
break it down.
insane.
There's obviously the music. There's a narration who has like this weird
Yeah, it's
rhyming scheme.
partially sung, partially spoken.
Yeah, and partially just kind of garbled through because it's like it sounds like they just grabbed somebody off the street and they were just like, come in and say this name over and over again, and then we'll give you $10. And
Buy you
that's
lunch.
yeah, we'll buy you lunch, whatever. No money for you. But it's just like the weirdest compilation of things ever. There's they just sing his name over and over again. So there's the Brave Star, and then there's this
Yeah.
guy that just has this narration, which I believe Sean will enlighten us with. Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do it at the end of the episode?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's get into
All
this.
right, buddy. We're gonna have a little session of slow poetry jam, cartoon style from Sean Paul Ellis. Let's take a listen.
Okay. So as Dave mentioned, there are multiple times where they just say "Brave Star," like quite often. And Joe, I think you messaged me and said I counted.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's at least 10.
it is actually 10 times. It's 10 times
That is
in like
perfect.
the chorus that they have, which are just them saying the name, but it's 11 times total because they say it in one of the verses.
Oh, I see.
Oh, nuts.
So I'm just gonna do the spoken word stuff that they have for like the actual theme song. It goes, in a distant time in a faraway place, the planet New Texas floats deep in space. Sky of 3 suns, land of precious ore, the Carium brought outlaws by the score. And then there's a lot of like, brave star, brave star.
You could have had lunch that day.
Yeah, you could have got
I
free
would have
lunch.
I would have loved
Yeah.
to have had lunch that day. It says, then one day, a lawman appeared with powers of hawk, wolf, puma, and bear.
I wish they would have rhymed it at that
Protector-
point and said powers of beer. That would have been amazing. It's like, oh, he's got these animals, and he's real drunk all the time. But continue.
That's a Native American
I
stereotype.
was leaving it alone at that point. I was leaving it alone.
No, I'm gonna touch it.
All right.
I'm not
All
saying-
right.
All right. Protector of peace, mystic man from afar, champion of justice, marshal, brave star. And then there's a lot of brave star. In fact, this is the point where they just go, brave star,
Brave star.
star.
And this is where they also call
Eyes
out
of-
his powers, yeah. In a little
Yeah.
kind of like jaunty
Eyes
tune.
of the hawk, ears of the wolf, strength of the bear, speed of the puma. Brave star, brave star.
That's very well done.
Which, if you're just, if you weren't a loyal fan watching from day one, you've just been brought up to speed. And you know everything you need to know.
I gotta
about
tell
the
you
show.
what, my absolute favorite part of this this intro, it's not the crazy like overlapping scenes of like villains laughing in like this hellish like red lava light or anything like that, or just his powers being shown on screen. It's the fact that they say Brave Star 100 times, and then at the end, the guy who is narrating just goes, Brave Star! And then it cuts out.
Yeah,
if you listen to it again, he just growls, Brave Star! Right at the end.
Brave Star!
Brave Star! And then it's done. It cuts right into the show. That cracked me up every single time. It's just like this grizzled old homeless man just pulling whiskey out of a brown paper bag, and they were just like, can you just say Brave Star? Brave Star!
Getting that free lunch.
Yeah, hell yeah, I would do it. So there you go, kids. That is the intro and theme music. Thank you very much to Sean Paul Ellis for that dramatic reading. It was well done. Now, I got to tell you, Sean read it so that you could actually understand what he was saying. When they're doing it on the show, it's like
if you want the free lunch, you really got to mess it up more a bit.
The guy flies through it, and he's saying things like the Carrion Rush, and you're like, the Carrion Rush?
I kept hearing Carrion.
I was like, why are they rushing for dead
I don't
animals?
understand.
Nothing makes sense. The Carrion Rush? Why are there outlaws? What is happening? We need to watch that movie.
No one wants rotting meat.
Yeah, nobody wants it. This show is a pile of rotting meat. It is so weird. Do you guys want to pick apart a specific episode? I feel like there's one that is all near and dear to our hearts. We've watched a few.
Yes, let's get into it.
We've watched a few,
Let's
okay.
get into this episode.
So there's one that is about a music competition, because that's what you do. And there's a demonic guitar. We're not going to talk about that. It also has time travel, which I know Joe was a big fan of.
Yeah, the casual time travel really ticks me off.
I never use it again. Never touch it again.
What?
It happened. That was the first episode.
Good example.
Right.
In the episode that we're about to discuss, there's a tragic loss.
Yes.
Well, Shaman can send people through time.
Apparently.
If they really cared that much, nothing about that episode had to be permanent, because Shaman sends people through time.
And like Sean said, they established it
But
episode 1.
We're just gonna leave it as a lesson to other folks. No need to change time in this case.
No, we learned our lesson. That's all the time travel we need for today. There's other stuff, like I said, the weird space zoo. One of the prairie people gets captured, and it's like this weird robot collector thing. It's a very strange episode. I'm trying to think of what other ones we actually watched. Oh, the Bronco Tank, the Night of the Bronco Tank. That is a fucked up episode.
Night of the Bronco Tank.
That is a great one to feature Stampede, though. Like, if you're interested in Stampede, the main villain, they basically knock him out in the second episode, which is kind of strange. There's a weird episode order too that is a little off, but yeah.
Like, to go to Gala's point about the casual time travel. So in episode, the only thing I want to say about episode 1 is that Joe, you had mentioned this about like very specific lines that just have like really odd sexual overtones to them.
I need you, 30-30.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, he just goes like Brave Star just goes, I need 30-30. I need him back.
Does he? Like, oh my god.
And
just in case anyone out there thinks we're making this up.
I swear to God, there's DeviantArt. It has to be.
I wrote in my notes, I said, this was the moment when this story stopped being about friendship.
Like, something more.
And then it goes, Brave Star goes to the shaman, he goes, I need to get him back. And he goes, I need to get back to the past. How do I do it? And there was like a very dramatic pause, and the shaman like looked at him and goes, I'm the only one who can make that happen. I was like, oh, how fucking convenient. Like,
it's his pimp.
How
the
wonderful
shaman is his pimp.
That you're the only person who can travel casually back in time, you dick.
He does it all the time.
Fucking ass.
All the time.
This episode, here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're just, here's the thing. If you're listening to this and you're just like, this show sounds crazy, you are 100% correct.
Yeah. You nailed it.
First and foremost, thank you for listening. Second, you are 100% correct. But here is the best thing. Not only is this show insane, all right, but what I want to segue into with this is the idea that like every one of these episodes has a public service announcement at the end.
Does it?
Like there is a lesson to be learned with every single one of these episodes, and it is so
good,
cringe-worthy, satisfying to watch them jump into this non sequitur bullshit. Like if they would have just let the episode like lay, if they would have been like, this is it, like this is the thing, friendship is a real thing, you need to value your friends are important, it's a part of being a successful, regular, normal, healthy human being.
Right.
Great. You could have implied a majority of that content from just watching the episode and not being an idiot.
Kids are dumb.
But
Need to hit them over the head with it.
They feel the need to spell this out for you. Oh my god.
Well, let's talk about
Like,
what
just-
was that. We were all
it blows
children
my
of the
mind.
80s.
And this brings us to the episode.
Yes.
This brings us to one episode that we have all watched that we were all just like, my mind is exploding from what is happening.
Joe
right
actually
now.
died. We had
And
to
it
bring
is
him
an
back through
episode-
time travel.
I died.
He died.
I've literally died and gone to heaven.
We brought him back though through
This
time
is an
travel. so-
episode.
Look, we're all kids of the 80s, right?
God,
What
this-
was the greatest threat to children growing up in the 80s? It
Oh,
wasn't
that's a good call.
starvation.
That's a good
Dragons.
Definitely,
Dungeons and Dragons.
it's on the list. It's on the list. Number one, kids. There's a war against it in this country.
I'm gonna say it's drugs.
It's definitely drugs. It was
Drugs.
drugs.
Is it drugs?
It was definitely
Really?
drugs.
God, is it
Every
drugs?
cartoon, I would love to just do like an entire rundown of the drug episode of like every cartoon that ever existed, because
Well,
Brave Stars,
we-
I'll tell you
we-
what, is amazing. This one is fucking amazing.
I mean, we are. So here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you are a fan of us, we talked about the drug episodes that was in Cops.
Cops.
And so Cops has probably one of my favorite drug episodes. Brave Star might be my second.
It's
favorite.
real good.
I think Cops is only better just because the drug dealer that's in it is just batshit fucking insane.
I mean, do you
But
want to
Brave
compare him
Star-
to this drug dealer though? Are you kidding me?
Oh my God,
He is a
there's no
bipedal
This
comparison.
guy
coyote.
is obviously just drug dealing part time. He's a
true.
full time pimp.
That's true. He is. He is well dressed.
Like, this is just this episode is called The Price.
Yes.
And first and foremost, it is insane. And Dave, you are 100% correct in saying that like these drug episodes are so incredible and heavy-handed.
The drug dealers
Like-
are always my favorite part because they are always like the slimiest, smarmiest person you would never probably meet in your entire life. So like if you only see this guy and avoid him, you're fine, right? You're fine.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be
Yeah.
your best friend or your older brother or your neighbor who's offering you drugs and having a good time. It's definitely going to be
It's
this.
gonna be an anthropomorphic.
It's going to be a
coyote.
dingo wearing a business suit in the fucking desert
was he
by your
was he a
fort.
coyote or was he a raccoon?
He was a dingo. There are no fucking raccoons as far as I know.
All right,
Right.
all right.
They're
there's-
trotting out their favorite, minority.
Yes, they're dingoes. He had an Australian
Dingoes
accent, for
again.
Christ's sake. And they even say, oh, there's a fucking dingo outside. I wonder what he wants. So it opens with these kids who we've never seen before. These are three random kids in this fort that looks like a lunar lander from like the 1960s. It just looks like it's this big metal jalopy.
Which is amazing
Yeah.
because later on in the episode, they're just like, "Where is your friend?" Like Bracer's like, "Where's your friend?" He's like, "Oh, he's up in our. We kind of got this like sort of like fort that we have." I'm like, "You have an incredible fort.
Yeah, you have
with awesome
a piece
stuff
of
in it.
NASA
Shut
history
up."
that you've co-opted into your fucking fort, you little prick. Like, how did you get this? This should be in a museum. But anyway, so it
And
starts
it's also
off.
a Franklin stove.
Yeah, there's a space stove in there too. So it starts with these kids. Again, we've never seen them before, never been introduced, no idea who they are. Okay, they're kids. It's three kids, two boys and a girl. What do we got? Jay, Chad, and girl. I don't remember her name.
Yeah, no,
She
girls
didn't even have a
appropriate.
name, just girl.
She's in it for like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
and then she's just like,
She runs
"I don't
away 'cause of
wanna-"
the dingo.
She's like, "I don't want to be here," and
Yeah.
then she just leaves, and you never see her again.
And then they
For
hang
all
a-
I know,
hang a sign that says, "No
she
girls
got
allowed."
eaten by a fucking coyote,
Yeah.
and I could care
Dingo.
less about her.
Dingo ate your baby. Doesn't
Dingo.
matter.
All right, Dingo ate her. All right, here's the thing, because what happens next
Yep.
in this
It's
episode
so good.
is so amazing.
Are you
Like-
talking about the? Here's a great time, since you mentioned the cops star wipe. Here's a great time to take a small aside and mention the Brave Star wipe because it is so good. His badge is basically just like the regular kind of sheriff's badge that you'd imagine, like the six-pointed star, right? That is the star wipe, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
It's like the outline in like a neon weird outline. So that just
It's
goes
an actual star.
yeah, it just
wipe.
goes brrrr
Like-
across the screen, accompanied by the sounds of what, gentlemen? Yeah, like a sci-fi.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sci-fi gunshot and ricochet every single time.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I was hoping it would be a Brave Star.
No, not unfortunately, no. They didn't bring that guy back.
It's like a pachoo, like in the background every time.
Every time. It's like every
amazing.
30 seconds. It drives you insane. When they go between like these kids in the fort and what happens back in the town. What the hell is the name of the town? Oh man.
Oh, is it the Fort Carrium?
Yeah, Fort Carrium. All right. So back in town, shit is going bananas. Sean, do you want to do your best impression of what's happening back in the fort? Do you remember?
Oh, I mean, I like impression-wise. I mean, I'm not sure. Oh,
Do you remember the guy?
Yeah.
So
There's like this character that like that 3030 and Bravestar have like they've managed to like capture this guy.
they like cornered him in a room somewhere.
They've cornered him like I think in the jail.
I think it's in their jail. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're getting ready to like throw him in jail, and like the sound that he makes is like kind of similar to like a Wilhelm scream.
Yeah.
Like it's like oh, it's insane.
You gotta watch
Everybody's
it.
like, oh my, it's.
And
it's
he's just
bananas.
screaming about spiders.
I really
Yeah.
thought it was going to be a werewolf episode based on the sound he was making.
Yeah, and it's the weirdest cut because it goes from these three kids, they see this dingo in a business suit, and they start...
They hear the sound.
They hear the sound?
Yeah, I thought didn't they like hear the sound?
Oh,
Like,
I don't-
what's that? They're like, we're freaked out. Like,
Oh,
and
I
then
don't
they
think
just,
so,
like,
unless it
peace out.
traveled that far. Because it's just like this, it's like a
Well,
smash cut that goes back to this guy in the middle of nowhere at first, and he's just like, spiders! The spiders! And you're like, what the fuck is happening? And then, yeah, you see Bravestar and 3030, like, trying to corner this guy. They eventually get him and, like, throw him in the cell. It turns out this guy is going through withdrawal of a drug called Spin. So it's not Crystal Twist. It is a drug called Spin. And he's very addicted to this stuff. And apparently, it is a problem that is sweeping through Fort Carrium, because by episode's end, 2/3 of the population is locked up in the one jail cell that they have. It's ridiculous. But the main focus of this episode deals with the drugs and the drug dealer, who is now talking to the kids. It's all going to end well, though, right? These are smart kids.
Oh no, actually, Dave, if you thought
Yeah.
at any point in time that this is going to end well, you did not learn the lesson.
Well, but I mean, it's a
from this
lesson,
show.
but it's going to have, like, a good, happy ending. Everyone's going to be fine. Everyone will learn
The
their
kid
lesson.
dies.
Oh. Well, sorry, Chad. Oh, it wasn't Chad. Chad is the chicken
Jay.
fink.
It was-
Chad is
it
the
was
chicken
Jay.
fink. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
So
only
what
you
happens-
thinked earlier.
If only.
So what ultimately happens is you have Jay
Right.
and Chad,
Right.
and correct me if I'm wrong, but Jay was the one who ends up doing drugs.
Yes, correct.
That's right.
So the dingo
Chad-
offers Spin to both of them. He tells them, "Hey, man, it's
Right.
really fun. I know
Chad-
you've heard bad
free.
things, but it's really cool, and everybody's doing it."
And Chad is just like, I don't want to do drugs. Like I'm just no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah, he's a good
So, like,
kid. He's listened
takes-
in dare
yeah,
class,
he takes the
and
moral
he's-
high road,
yeah, he's
and
good.
he gets the fuck out.
Yeah.
Like I get it. Like GTFO, bad situation, but he finds out that Jay is doing Spin.
Well,
and, like,
he even
here's the
and he
thing.
knows about it too. He knows that Jay's gonna try it, but he makes a promise to his buddy. He's like, "Dude, I'm not gonna do it. You do whatever you need to do. I really wish you wouldn't, but I'm not gonna tell on you." And that's when Jay calls him a
And-
chicken. He tries to get him to do it. He blames him.
No,
he calls
he
him
doesn't
a
call
fink.
him a chicken. He calls him a chicken 30 times.
That's right.
In that episode.
What are you gonna be, a chicken? You some kind of chicken? What are you, a chicken? You a
You some
chicken?
kind of chicken? What? You're not gonna do these drugs?
What are you,
a
Chad the chicken? Yeah.
No, you chicken? What? You're not gonna rat me out, are you?
And that's when Fink
you
comes
fink
into play.
Chicken?
Yeah.
Like, ugh.
That's all they can come up with for that. So that is the Chad and Jay story. It's a sad tale, but an all too common tale, unfortunately.
So I mean, here's the thing that blew my mind
Yeah.
is that the drug dealer in this dingo drug dealer,
Right.
later on, like Chad just calls him dealer.
Yeah.
Like he goes,
That's his
Yeah.
name.
it's like he just,
Hey, dealer.
He's just like listen here, dealer. Like that's the dialogue in this episode, which is mind blowing.
Now, speaking of
Like-
dialogue, you already kind of told the folks what happens at the end, but basically, so Jay is getting more and more addicted to this stuff. Dealer, the dingo.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Just in terms of getting addicted to this, we need to talk about the vessel.
The actual drug
that
itself?
Spin
Like-
that the spin is contained in. It's in like the smallest like tchotchke jar
Yeah.
that you could imagine.
And it's like this
And, like,
fluorescent orange liquid.
Not even that. It's how it's distributed.
Right.
It's not like they use like a dropper to like put it like in your eye or an ear.
Yeah,
or
or
like
snort
some type
it
of,
or
mucus
smoke it or
membrane where it
anything.
could
Yeah.
like quickly absorb.
No,
You
like
put it in a
you know,
turkey baster and inject it
you-
up your...
Hey.
Yeah, exactly. Like you like the dealer
Yep.
just pours this tiny tchotchke jar into this kid's hand, and then he just massages it creepily
so
into his
creepy.
hand.
Oh yeah.
So creepy. And the kid is tripping balls at this point, and they don't shy away from it. That was actually kind of cool for this show.
No.
They don't shy away from
That
it
was
at
cool.
all. Yeah, I liked it. Well, I liked it because he was
But-
definitely
but to
going
go
through
back-
the issues. Yeah.
But Dave, to go back to the incredible dialogue that we've been talking about in this episode, it gets very deep, it gets very heavy, it gets very serious.
Yeah, so Chad for a while is struggling, like, he goes back, he sees that they're having issues back at the fort, but he doesn't want to rat at his buddy, even though he
He doesn't want to
knows
fink him
he's-
out.
Doesn't want to fink him out. He doesn't want to be a chicken and a fink. He doesn't want to be a chicken fink.
Oh.
So he doesn't tell on him. He doesn't tell. And then at some point he kind of breaks and he's like, all right, something's going down. There's a dingo. He's giving Jay some spin out at our creepy fort. Maybe you should check on him. So they go check on him. And what do they find when they get there?
They find Jay,
They do, and he's still in the fort.
and Chad climbs
Call a
up to the
doctor.
fort.
Yeah, 30-30.
Chad climbs up the ladder, and then faints.
And Bravestar goes up and checks on him.
Bravestar goes up.
He holds his
30-30.
He holds Jay's hand up, and 30-30 calls out. He calls out, "Call Dr. Clayton."
Wow.
Call Dr. Clayton, because that's what they've done for all the speed freaks back in Fort Carrium, and Dr. Clayton saved most of them. Call Dr. Clayton, Bravestar says.
Nah,
What's he say?
not necessary.
What's he say, Joe?
It's too late.
Don't bother. It's too late.
It's too late.
And then this is amazing. If you're not already convinced, you need to watch this episode. They now cut to the shaman who pops up out of nowhere. A close up on this animated shaman face. He's got, I kid you not, the single tear beating up in his eye and rolling down his face. And that is how
So
And
amazing.
episode.
and scene. I love the comments though, because some people are like, "Wait, was he upset that the kid died from drugs, or did somebody throw trash on the highway?" That was my favorite fucking comment.
They literally end the episode
Yep.
with Bravestar, because I had to pull it back up because I'm crying.
It's like the shaman.
All right, they had to.
Well, and the shaman gets over pretty quickly because
Oh,
he
yeah.
must be like, all right, well, I guess I could time travel to bring him back.
It's like,
but,
no, man, lesson learned. Hot pocket.
Oh, he cries, and then like it cuts 3 seconds after that.
Yep.
All right.
Fade to black, and then
to
bring the lights back up.
No fade to black. It cuts to a hard cut to Bravestar with a wreath standing over the kid's
In the fucking desert
grave.
with the kid's whole name on there.
And this is Jay Oldman.
Jay
He's
Oldman.
putting a wreath on his grave.
Hey
It
kids, you
is-
might
it is so,
you might have heard about drugs.
It is so amazing.
Oh, the best part is like at one point.
Here's Nancy of the Reaganoids.
Oh, last of her kind.
Just say no.
Oh my god. And they basically say, like, at one point the shaman actually has a cool, kind of a cool line that he says to the kid. It's actually very adult at one point, because he's like, look, your friends are important and the promises you make to them are also important, but life is more important. And he says, you can either lose that promise with your friend, or you can lose your friend. And the kid's like, well, shit, that is some serious adult stuff. And that I appreciated. But that end, when they were just like, nope, kid's fucking dead in his fort, I had a hard time. Not because I was crying, because I was
Definitely a
laughing.
very special episode.
The Price, kids, definitely check that one out. Apparently that was dedicated to somebody who no one knows. His name's like Raymond.
Yeah, I wanted to know that.
Raymond Haver or something like that. And like I couldn't
Yeah,
find
something.
who that was dedicated to.
I
He
just
Sean
care
didn't
enough
care.
to Google search
Sean
it.
has
I
no
didn't give a
empathy. He
shit.
didn't care.
No empathy
I was
whatsoever.
moved. Call Dr. Clayton. Don't bother.
Don't
It's too
bother,
late.
It's too late.
Oh, so good. Dead kids on a cartoon, man. Dead kids on a
Oof.
cartoon. That's rough. Anything else from this this show, guys? Because it's a fun one. It's nuts, but it's fun.
The only other
Yeah.
thing that's related to this show is that what was it? From Filmation. And
Right.
This is just more of a like umbrella production company. One of the producers, one of the American producers, Louis. I'm gonna screw this up.
Lou Scheimer.
Lou Scheimer.
Yeah.
I need to read his Wikipedia entry for his early life.
Yes.
And it just says, Scheimer was born the son of a German Jew who, according to family legend, had to leave Germany in the early 1920s after knocking out a young Adolf Hitler in a beer hall scuffle.
So this guy, unfortunately, he is the late Lou Scheimer. He passed away just last year in October.
Yeah.
So that is unfortunate because this is a guy I would love to have a beer with and just be like, tell me about your life.
This guy
because, good God.
Lou is the coolest dude ever. I mean, just...
And he's a Pittsburgher too, which we respect because we all met each other in Pittsburgh. So
we all met in Pittsburgh. Yeah. So I mean, this is...
You're a boy, Lou. Lou, you're my boy.
This one's for you, Lou.
This one's for you. Pour one out for Lou. Good stuff.
Just amazing stuff.
Yeah. Anything else from you, Joe? I know you enjoyed this one. None of us had watched this, I don't think, growing up either. That was the interesting thing.
No. One completely snuck by me. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, I don't know how from the months of September to March of 87 to 88.
Yeah.
What were you doing during that time?
Were you just like 2 days of marathon episodes or what?
Oh my God, I'd love to. Yeah, you can watch all 30 of the 30-30 episodes. 30 of the 65 episodes on
30
Hulu.
of the 30. That's why they call it 30-30.
Yeah, 30-30 was actually featured on ESPN's 30 for 30. So you might want to check that one out. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
The behind the music is called Hindsight is 30-30.
Oh my God, that's so good. It's so good.
That's so good.
Yeah, Joe. This is why we like having Joe on. Joe is actually going to be joining us next week, and he will get the prestige, the honor of picking our next cartoon, but we're not going to get to that just yet. We're going to tease you a little bit because, first of all, guys, do we recommend Brave Star? I think we do. Not because it's good, because you need to watch this.
I give it 2 out of 5 grappling hooks.
2 out of 5 grappling hooks. That's not a lot of grappling hooks. I mean, it's enough for each arm, but I don't know.
I recommend this. I recommend this
wholeheartedly.
Because, not wholeheartedly. Okay. I kind of like. I recommend this in sort of like an ironic, detached kind of a way.
Absolutely.
Like it's very good in terms of its premise. There are just some problems in terms of its execution.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to watch because, like David mentioned earlier, for the time period that this came out, the fact that it had a Native American as the lead character, I think is remarkable. And it's actually it's a good cartoon. Like, and I think in terms of like, I think when this came out, I was what, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, and I was like 4.
And right. And so the messages that they are trying to convey, I mean, I think that they are good, if not a little bit heavy-handed. Sure. It's interesting to watch, but I really feel that the strength of this show
is in the bear.
Is in the bear. It's just the rich history that they created for this universe that they live in. And I'm actually and that's the reason I'm recommending this is because I actually now want to watch the full-length feature film for this.
Yeah, we might have to do that.
Help.
Yeah.
I want to watch it just on my own, just to to gain that additional information just about why Brave Star chose New Texas.
And is his name Marshall?
Why is it? Yeah, and is his name Marshall? And why did they name a planet New Texas? That is just fucking ridiculous. A majority of the show is so batshit crazy, but it seems to work, and I don't know how, and so I'm curious to learn more about it.
Look, I also recommend this.
You've piqued my interest, Filmation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well done. 65 episodes out there. I really need to tag on. This is one thing I wanted to mention too. Sean brought it up in the episode, The Price. At the very end, when Brave Star's doing his PSA, if you guys miss this, you got to go back and watch it. He lays the wreath down on the grave, right? He doesn't know how to exit the stage because the animator didn't know how to draw him. So he fucking robot slides to the side and then just burp burp burp, just half kind of just pop and locks his way off the stage.
It's so janky and he doesn't know.
It's amazing. And I mean, just the juxtaposition of that serious message he was trying to get across, and then moonwalking off the stage is just amazing. That's a crazy bit of animation. So definitely check out. I would say The Price, and then honestly pick an episode, man, because they're all over the place. So whatever you want to watch is cool.
I'd say watch The Price and
Night of the Bronco Tanks.
None of the Bronco tanks is good, but I think if you want to see some like I know we've talked a lot about
30-30.
the relationship between 30-30. I don't feel like we've hit enough of the relationship.
Yeah, there's a lot to
30-30
dive into.
and in Brave Star, but the first episode, like it becomes, I think it's called The Disappearance of 30-30.
Right.
Like that relationship becomes so glaringly apparent that you're just like, oh no, what is going? Like he is in a sexual relationship with this horse. Like
There it is, kids.
It's worth watching.
Oh, definitely. This version of it, not the ones that you find on the dark web. Stay away from those versions of horse sex. Anyway,
Yes.
moving on. Yeah, I would also recommend Strength of the Bear episode, because that's where Bravestar loses his powers, has to go on kind of like this spiritual quest to get him back. That is almost as close to an origin story as you can get without the movie itself. So I'd say check that one out. Okay, now that we're coming to the end of the show here, we're going to move into our section in case you guys have anything coming up that you'd like to talk about. Since Joe, you're our special guest, I'm going to allow you to go first. Anything you want to tell the folks about? You got nothing coming up? Well, all right. How about you, Sean? Joe says, "Fuck off."
I don't have I don't have any shows coming up until the October through the rest of the year. I'll have a bunch of shows, but
Cool.
right now for August and September it is pretty quiet.
Yeah, which is good because we've had kind of a crazy busy summer with a bunch of stuff. The only thing I have coming up, Dragon Con is going on in Atlanta this coming weekend, so I will be down there. It'll be my first time there, so I'll check that out and maybe report back if I find anything cool. There's some cool podcasting stuff, some cool TV stuff, comic stuff, so we'll see what's up.
Awesome.
Let's do some contact info now. Sean, where can we find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Sean Paul Ellis.
And Joe, would you like the people to find you and let you know how much they loved you on this show?
Indeed, I'm at Crazy Joe Gallo.
Crazy Joe Gallo. And if you want to pester me at all or ask me more about 30-30 and Marshall Bravestar Deviant Art, you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can find more about the show at SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. That's morning with a U. You can also check out an awesome Tumblr page populated by our one and only Sean Paul Ellis over at SaturdayMorningCartoons.tumblr.com. I have some fantastic news for longtime listeners and new folks alike. We are finally on iTunes. We are finally on Apple iTunes. We've got 90s.
We did it, guys.
We did it. All thanks to you and your help and your support.
By that we mean Dave did it, guys. Dave did
Sean spot checked some XML code for me, so I will thank him for that. Actually, most of it was done through Podbean, and they're not a sponsor. We pay them, so it's the opposite of how this is supposed to work. But they've made it really easy for us to get up on iTunes. Apple has made it exceedingly difficult, so thanks. But Podbean's pretty good. Apple, for whatever reason, has added every episode up until now, as of the airing of this particular episode, except for our very first episode on Turbo Teen. I don't know why. I even excised out the theme song that was in there in case there were any like weird copyright issues. So that's not there. I don't know what it is. So if you guys,
Do you feel like at like some moment, like, I don't know, iTunes is just sort of like, look, we know all pilot episodes are garbage.
Yeah, probably
So
just skip right over
We're
it.
gonna help you out. We're gonna help you out. Just get rid of that
So guys, we're gonna skip the garbage and we're gonna go right to Botsmaster, is what you're saying.
Oh,
But yeah,
no.
guys, head over to Apple iTunes, head to the store, click on the podcast link, and just do a search for us. We're probably not going to show up in any of like the top 10s just yet. Fingers crossed. But yeah, do a Saturday morning cartoon search. Remember, that's morning with a U. And we should pop right up, man. You'll see our logo, and you'll be able to download all 15, I believe, at this point, of our episodes. So that's pretty cool stuff. Also, you can find us on Twitter at MorningTunes if you want to hit us up there. We'll be posting the links and stuff up there, too. So all that will also be in the show notes. As for next week, Joe will be joining us once again because Baron is off on his island honeymoon vacation. So, Joe, would you like to tease the folks about what they're going to be listening to next week and what you're going to make us watch? Because I don't even know.
Next week, it's going to be my favorite cartoon involving a team of heroes on a submarine who use a large hot tub
Yeah.
to turn into aquatic creatures. It's the one and only tiger sharks.
Oh man, I have no idea what's gonna happen
boy.
on this one, but
I've
it
never
sounds
watched Tiger
good.
Sharks.
We were either
I have a.
Yeah.
I have two things before we
Shoot.
sign off for the evening. Congratulations to Matthew. on
congratulations,
his
buddy,
wedding.
you and Rachel.
Congratulations to Matt. to you and Rachel. I hope you guys are having a fantastic time. Finally, sort of in the same vein that every episode of
Hmm.
Brave Star ended, do we happen to have a PSA that we might have
I,
for our listeners?
I'm gonna turn that over to you, improv man, because I am terrible.
No, I mean, we don't have to have, we do not have to have it any
I
way,
mean,
shape, or
here's what
form.
I would say, and this is, I mean, this is just off the cuff. This is from the bottom of my heart to all the listeners out there in podcast land, and to all the young cartoons out there that haven't been around real long. Like, kids, I guarantee that you've heard about some crazy drugs that are out there. Like, we know about Spin, we know about Crystal Twist. Do you guys know of any others that, like, have popped up? Light.
No, I'm now going to be scanning cartoons for drug
You just get, yeah, we're
episodes
gonna
now
look for
from now
drugs.
on.
But
Yeah,
just do
that's
the
it.
drugs, kids. Just do the drugs. That's our PSA from Saturday
Jeez.
Morning Cartoons.
Oh
Just
no.
do them. Look, man,
Oh.
you don't want to be a chicken fink. You don't want to be the kid who's not
No,
doing the drugs.
no.
Everybody
What
else
you
is gonna be
want to
having a
be
good
is
time.
cool.
Yeah, you definitely want to be
Everyone wants
cool.
to fit
You
in.
gotta fit in. Do the drugs. I mean, if you take nothing away from this show, do the drugs. Look, you might get to cross paths with such legendary heroes as Bravestar, JT Marsh, Bulletproof Vest. You don't know. You don't know who you're gonna come across. So do the drugs. That's the best advice I have for you. You might even create one of these fucking bananas cartoons that we end up talking about while you're on the drugs.
That was beautiful, Dave.
Thank you, and I hope that I hope the kids out there listen. So yeah, Saturday morning cartoons.
Ah.
We're gonna go do the drugs now. So we'll talk to you guys later. See you next week. Hmm.
And they kind of used Tex Hex as this main character. And as it took shape, now this was the crazy thing that we learned through watching this show. So originally, Bob Forward wrote the feature film script for Brave Star: The Legend,
Yes.
which I don't know. I mean, I wish I would have known that Brave Star: The Legend was a real thing prior to watching like the 4 or 5 episodes that I watched of just Brave Star.
Right.
Um, because I feel like Brave Star: The Legend is sort of the origin story, but it came out in like later in '88 after Brave Star, the television show, had run on the air.
Which
So
makes no sense, but
um,
yeah.
it makes no sense. So here's the thing: if you watch Brave Star, if you're like, oh, I want to waste time in my life, and I want to watch a couple episodes of Brave Star, and then you're like, what is going on in this batshit crazy science fiction Western world that they created? Maybe go back and watch Brave Star: The Legend,
Yeah.
because that's what I want. Here's the thing: this show was so much of a hot mess that I now want to watch
Right.
Brave Star: The Legend with the hope that it'll actually explain
Anything?
anything at all. Like I'll take even like if I had like 5 questions
Right.
and they answered one of them, I'd be like, well, that was successful.
Yeah. We'll
So,
take it. We might actually
mean-
try to revisit that in a future episode, just because we all did talk about it, and we were just like,
Please.
"We need to watch this." So yeah,
This thing is so fucking crazy. Episodes.
exactly.
I don't know how they managed to do this for these shows. It's brilliant. It aired originally from September '87 until February of '88. 65 episodes in that. Just think about that. That's amazing. The original concept and idea for Brave Star began. If anybody ever remembered the cartoon Ghostbusters. Now, this isn't the real Ghostbusters.
Or the extreme Ghostbusters.
Or the extreme Ghostbusters.
Right.
All right. This is just straight up Ghostbusters by Filmation. Now, Filmation ran into, there was some anger and some dispute between using the name Ghostbuster, but suffice it to say, Ghostbusters was terrible and was garbage. But Filmation managed to get away with this for probably 65 episodes
Yeah, probably.
as well. Anyway, in Ghostbusters, there was a villain, a ghost that was named Tex Hex.
Right.
And they translated Tex Hex as sort of like this kind of like ghostly apparition who was also sort of like from a Western era.
Right.
And they used that guy to pivot into what is now Brave Star.
Yeah, so what a hell of an origin story. Like a cast-off ghost from Ghostbusters into this craziness.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And so they ended up they ended up kind of really wanting to develop this whole idea around a science fiction western.
Hello, and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you today from the planet of New Texas, I'll be your host, Dave Trumbore. Joining me today, as always, he has the humor of the hyena, DC area improv artist and comedian, Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, buddy?
David, how are you doing, Big Pard?
I'm Big Pard. Just fine. And our special guest this week, he's blessed with the scent of a sex panther. It's Joe Gallo, everybody. Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Now,
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah, Joe was on an earlier episode. Which the hell? You were on Exo Squad, is that correct?
Correct.
Oh yeah, Exo Squad.
Guys, we've done so many episodes, I can't even keep them straight. So many guest stars. So many tunes. Yeah. Now, I mistakenly thought that Joe brought this current tune to my attention. I don't know where I pulled this from because Joe says he was not the he was not the one that told me about this. So we'll be talking about Brave Star today, and I'm very happy that we are because holy shit, is this a mess? So we're gonna get into it with a little bit of history. I'm gonna turn it over to Sean, who's gonna tell you how this came about.
Like every other show that we've watched that has been in the late 80s time frame,
Yep.
one season, 65 episodes. And to give us a little bit about this craziness, Joe Gallo, please give us the synopsis on this mess.
So this is the story of Marshall Bravestar, who is the law dog.
We'll tell you why Sean's laughing a little bit too.
Of New Texas,
Yeah.
and his sidekick slash horse 3030.
I just want to throw in like a small asterisk that's also just lover.
Yeah, we'll talk about possible bestiality in this Brave Star bestiality. We're not entirely sure. It's never on camera, but it's hinted pretty strong.
Come on, fan fiction, don't let me down.
Oh, it's got to be out there.
The whole show takes place
Yeah.
in the 23rd century on a
course.
planet called New Texas. They're experiencing sort of a gold rush, but it's not gold. Everyone's there to get the mineral cerium. And so you have this sort of ensemble cast of different alien species, certainly humans.
Yeah, few and far between, it feels like.
Yeah,
There's
surprisingly.
a lot of weird kind of Mos Eisley kind of weird Star Wars
Yes,
kind of
that's
aliens.
a very good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3030 is an equestroid. There are the Prairie People, who is like sort of an entire race of Jar Jar Binks talking.
Yeah, they're terrible.
God, I hate
short
everyone.
folks. And then kind of a freak of the week kind of a thing. And that it seems like they're making up new species to suit the plot. But there are some repeating characters, like the dingoes or coyotoids.
That's right.
Who are sort of the typical bad guys, episode to episode. And
I think
at some point I want to address the issue of racism around the dingoes. You know, they are the coyotoids, but they have a slur. You know, they call them dingoes.
Here's the thing:
That's
is
true,
that
they do.
watching
They're all
watching
Australian.
the first couple episodes
Yeah.
where they introduced the coyotes, dingoes, whatever, I actually thought that they were raccoons
How did you think they were raccoons?
because they kind of have like masks over their eyes.
Is it
Oh
because
my
they
God.
steal, Sean? Is that are you saying?
Is it because they washed their
No.
food in the river before? No?
Is that something a raccoon does?
Oh my God,
Well,
yes.
they have their little robber masks.
That's
I
true.
mean, they just have little robber masks. I thought they were like adorable little raccoons.
Well, it turns out in one particular episode,
was like,
they
what
are
is
not
raccoon
delightful,
about?
adorable creatures. They are
they're not.
drug-dealing
They're
pederasts. Yeah.
Drug dealing assholes.
But as Joe mentioned,
Well, I mean,
there's a...
I love the fact that when they tell him this dingo just goes, I've got the right to make drugs. It's like, he's like, I've got the right to a living just like everybody else. And like Brave starts to be like, whoa, hold up, making drugs, like that's illegal.
Yeah, so like Joe mentioned during his synopsis, though, before we get